Bobby, Heritage Classic yesterday, Leafs and Sabres. You just got to know that when the Leafs play the Sabres, doesn't matter how good the Leafs are and how bad the Sabres are going to come out on top. And came up for a couple of reasons. Mrazek was bad again. That was one of the storylines after the game. But honestly, I'm done talking about goaltending with the Leafs. I've already made it be known. I think they should get someone. All the talk after the game was about the Matthews cross-check. And today it came out, Department of Player Safety, gave him a 2-game suspension for that cross-check. Now, I personally, I'm being unbiased here. I think it was a totally suspendable play. It was retaliatory, a vicious cross-check to the head. I think it was suspendable. The problem for me, and I think for most Leaf fans, is that when usually when they make these decisions, they take into account the guy's history. And Matthews, you can't find a cleaner rap sheet than him. He has 3 times the amount of goals as he does penalty minutes. He was nominated for the Lady Byng last year. He just doesn't play a nasty, dirty game. Secondly, there's not much, if any, precedent of cross-checking suspensions that have happened in the last little while. You look at Joel Edmondson on Wayne Simmons in the playoffs last year. That didn't even get a fine. Last night alone, Jonathan Huberdeau gave a retaliatory, predatory elbow on Anze Kopitar, and nobody's even talking about it. Now, I did some digging. You want to know when the last 2 cross-checking penalties ended up in suspensions? You know, Bobby? Can you think about them on top of your head?
I cannot.
One was Robert Bertuzzo at the end of 2019. He got 4 games. The one before that was Nazem Kadri. He got 5 playoff games against the Bruins in the 2019 playoffs. So this is what frustrates Leafs fans. This is what frustrates me, is that this line of suspension doesn't fall into line with anything else that Department of Player Safety, what they do. There's no rhyme or reason to what they do. It's like they flip a coin. Do you think, Bobby, and you're not a Leaf fan, so I'll ask you, do you think Leaf fans have a legit beef here that the league always seems to pick on them the most? Or is this just a coincidence and it's Leaf fans, as usual, being a whiny bunch, which we can be?
I think part of the problem is that the Leafs are, I mean, I know the Rangers are the most valuable team, but the Leafs are the biggest brand in the NHL, and the most eyeballs are on them. They have the most primetime games, the most national games, and I'm sure part of the refs' thinking is we can't make it look like we are favoring them, because there are games where it seems like they will get the short end of the stick. I don't know if there's, I don't see why the league would want the Leafs to be on the wrong side of this. So I'm going to go with no. That's like a conspiracy theory. I will say the Auston Matthews things, I think it was a suspension. I think it was a suspendable play. But I think one thing that the Leafs were frustrated about, or Leaf fans, is there was like a lead up to it where it wasn't just like out of the blue. It was like he's just been taking abuse. And I think part of this was the Thursday night mishap with the referee not calling it in overtime. And I think it just boiled over to
snowballing. Yeah.
It snowballed into what happened. Because Auston Matthews is a very clean player. And, I think he probably could have got off with 1 game, at least a fine. But this has to be called. I mean, those have to be, it's a dangerous play. And I'm sitting there going, he took a nice hit in the third, and then Buddy came to his defense. I can't. Bunting came to his defense. This is when there's a lack of fighters, and fighting's kind of out of the game. Brian Burke talked about this. Is that this is when the rats are going to come out. There's going to be a lot more stick checking. It's going to be a little bit dirtier, a little greasier. You kind of want to see the Leafs tough guys kind of handle this instead of having him just build up to this and finally say, you know what, I've had enough, and I'm going to cross-check, Rasmus Dahlin. Because if there was any implication that there might be a fight for Rasmus Dahlin, he's not going to do this. He's not cross-checking Auston Matthews.
Yeah, and there was build up to that play. Like Austin body checked Dahlin with a clean hit about 30 seconds before that, and then Dahlin initiated the cross-checking right in front of the referee. It's not called, and then Matthews says enough is enough. And then you see what happened. I don't know if would the tough guys take care of it. Like they have Simmons, but he's barely on the ice, especially in that instance when they're trying to chase a game like that. I don't know. I see what you're saying, and there's some validity to it, but I'm not totally convinced it would have made a difference whether that play happens there. I think it's just Matthews losing his cool because he's not drawing calls, right? He's drawn 8 penalties all year, whereas like Connor McDavid's drawn 40. Not to say that he should have drawn more penalties than Connor, but a player of his magnitude, a guy who scores the most goals, should be drawing a lot more power plays, not getting the calls. So he said enough is enough. I personally love that he did it. I'm glad Dahlin didn't get hurt, but it sends a message like, you want to screw around with me? I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm not going to let you Ben Sherratt ragdoll me and laugh the whole time. No, I'm going to stick up for myself. So I really love that he did it, even though it cost him 2 games.
Yeah, I agree. And part of the problem here is that the Sabres don't really normally when you go after a team's elite superstar, they'll just go after yours. Sabres don't really have an elite superstar that
Not
you can
anymore.
go after, right? Like you can say maybe Casey Middlestat, but he's nowhere near that stature where there's
Not
the
even
protection.
close.
So
It's Dahlin probably.
it's Dahlin,
He's their
yeah.
star.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where I mean if I'm Wayne Simmons, I kind of let Dahlin know, hey, now you're gonna get roughed up. So yeah, I think this should be called though. The fact that there aren't that many cross-checking penalties called, that's a dangerous play, and
I agree.
I highly doubt that's the only one. Like you said, we saw the Edmondson one last year. That was probably even worse than the Matthews one. But it's playoffs, so you're not allowed to call anything or suspend anybody or
Unless you're
different
Nazem
rules.
Kadri.
Yeah,
Then you get the whole
yeah.
rest of the series. You're out of here.
I'd love to ask you a question, Joe, because I am one of the stupid people that picked the Leafs to actually win around this year. And there was the Thursday night game with the no call in overtime. Now, for me, that was 1,000% a penalty. 1,000%. There's
Obviously.
no question. But the fact, I have a little bit of an issue with stopping and yelling at the ref. I think this is part of the mental toughness that I talk about, and it's very worrisome for me. It's almost a microcosm of the Leafs of when there's any adversity, they just kind of stop,
Buckle.
and they buckle. And it was 100% a penalty. It was Chikrin, and he grabs his stick, but they're even, and yet he beat Auston Matthews to the net. Now I understand he's frustrated, but for me it was a real microcosm of this is kind of what the Leafs are. Mentally weak. When things don't go their way, they're going to kind of fold up shop, and it's made me worried. It's making me worry that I've picked them to win around this year because
It's
it's
certainly
just
not
that mental
looking good right now, but it's because of the goaltending right now is worrisome. They've had above 900 save percentage goaltending for 1 month of the year. And that's what's concerning, and that's why I wouldn't pick them. But the Matthews thing, should he be stopping to yell at the ref? No, he shouldn't be. But at the same time, Chikrin grabs him and uses the momentum of the grab to propel himself forward, which stops Matthews' momentum. There was no way Matthews is going to catch up to Chikrin or the guy who had the puck. I forget who it was at that time. But whether he yells at the ref or not, even if he gives it 100%, he's not catching up to him because of the way the play happened. So
I saw that exact same play, and I mean to a T, the exact same play in Winnipeg yesterday. It was Winnipeg, and I can't remember who they were playing. It might have been St. Louis. It was an overtime, and the Winnipeg guy gets grabbed. He back checks. They get the puck back, go back 2-on-1, and they end up scoring. And it just shows that like lack of mental toughness that I feel like the Leafs have that's gonna hold them back yet again this year.
all right. Just to end off, if I'm the Leafs, I'm saying because of this suspension, it's like, okay, it's cool. Something to the regard of, we understand the decision of the league and we respect their decision, but we hope that this new precedent that's been set with this will continue forward in the future. Something to that effect. Whereas, okay,
I agree.
You want to set this new precedent? Fine. But when it comes back around to him getting it in the playoffs, let's see where you are then.